So as we move closer to the elections, the ANC Youth League is calling for economic freedom and social transformation to improve the lives of young people in South Africa. The Youth League has been non-existent without proper structures until this conference that elected Collen Malatji last year. Let's look at the state of the Youth League ahead of the 29 May elections. We now speak to Collen Malatji, who is the president of the ANC Youth League. Collen, good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us. I want to start here, though. Am I correct to say that since the former ANC Youth League president, Julius Malema, you would be the first ANC Youth League president to actually see the ANC through a general election? So there was no ANC Youth League in 2014. There was no ANC Youth League in 2019. Of course, there were the NTT that was there. Am I correct?
No, you're correct. The Youth League was disbanded in 2013. Then a conference was supposed to sit in 2014, which was converted into a consultative conference. Then it later sat in 2015 in Kalaga to elect President Collen Malatji. Then there was a disbandment again. Yeah.
So what does this mean then for you? Because essentially it's historical.
Look, it's a huge responsibility. Especially when the president of the country in his January 8 statement in Bombela called upon the Youth League to carry elections. You know, when you are called upon to carry such a huge task of election to defend the gains of freedom, it's only few generations have been called upon by a president in the January 8. It's a generation of the young lions that was called upon by President Oliver Tambo to render the country ungovernable against the apartheid system. And we're the next generation to be called to defend the revolution.
Yeah. What's your assessment then of the ANC now heading into the elections?
Look, the ANC is coming out very strong, especially this Youth League, because the president of the ANC has been pronouncing mainly on resolutions of the ANC Youth League. Look, we announced that we want export quotas of raw materials for beneficiation. The president of the ANC has been pronouncing that. We have pronounced that we want corruption at NEFSAS and other state-owned entities to be dealt with. The president of the ANC has been acting on that. We have called upon the Minister of Employment to stop becoming Minister of Unemployment and come up with opportunities for the youth. We've seen that 21 billion has been set aside for reskilling of the youth. I'm speaking about things that are happening before elections. You know, I'm not speaking about things that are going to happen after elections or the plans that are going to happen. I'm saying those are resolutions of the Youth League that we've been mentioning. We've called upon the Minister of Health and MECs to immediately employ unemployed doctors. We've seen movements in different provinces where vacancies and adverts has been taken out to place doctors. Now, I'm saying those are some of the achievements, because we're not just the Youth League that speaks and nothing happens. You know, while Youth League, when we speak, the president acts on what we're saying, but we're saying more must be done.
Yeah, but you're also coming in as the ANC goes to these elections, and our unemployment rate is higher than what it was before.
Yeah, look, what we must first admit is that we're from a very hectic season of COVID-19 where we've lost over 2 million jobs. And we're trying our level best. The economy is very difficult. We've declared, as the Youth League, unemployment a disaster. We've called upon the president to treat unemployment the same way he treated COVID-19. And we gave him solutions to say that we need the private sector to come on board. We must be disciplined. We need to discipline capital. The private sector can't sit back and watch and say, there's high level of unemployment. Now it's a problem of government alone. It's not a problem of government alone. It's a problem of all stakeholders to resolve this problem, to make sure that no one is roaming around the country. That's why we've also, for future plans and permanent solution, the export quotas of 70% beneficiation of raw materials in South Africa. We utilize that to reindustrialize the economy, to create more jobs for the youth, and whether it's employment or economic activities, which includes business and many other activities that will assist them to be full participant in their own economy of their own country.
Yeah. Yesterday you also spoke about the SOEs. Do you believe that the SOEs are really in a better state?
There's an improvement. If you can see the health of ESCOM, it's coming all right. You check Transnet, there were issues of ports not operating. We see movements now. If you can see, our ports are starting to be really active again. Look at SARS, for example. SARS has collected more than what it has collected in the past. We've seen a lot of corrupt state institutions acting on corruption in some areas. But I was saying that more must be done. The president must be given more time I think in his second term will be a term to level and implement all the resolutions and what we've mentioned in our manifesto.
Yeah, well, yesterday the minister. Well, yesterday actually there were reports that the Minister of Public Enterprises, Pravin Gordhan, responding to a question from the Democratic Alliance, stating that Eskom, SAA, and Transnet has cost the country billions in corruption, bribery in the past 5 years. So those past 5 years would have happened over this tenure of President Cyril Ramaphosa's administration. How do you explain that?
Look, it was a rot. What you must admit that the rot was too deep, which the president declared to fight with it. I think it's something that has happened over years that we've been acting on as the ANC. And as the ANC, we've acknowledged it. That's why, as the ANC, we've set up systems where one state capture commission, that's an ANC resolution. We've set up the integrity committee so that those who are members of the ANC that are participating in corruption will be set aside.
Collen, we can't say that it was an ANC resolution and leave it at that. It was a finding of the former public protector and then further court judgment to that effect.
Yeah, but if you look at resolutions of ANC conferences before what the public protector resolved, we've seen that the ANC internally is one of the first organizations to acknowledge its internal crises of high infiltration of corrupt behavior by some of the members of the ANC that we feel that they don't belong to the organization. The organization is the parliament of the people. Now, by the time the public protector made those findings, already the ANC was in the process of acting on corruption.
I don't know about that because the Secretary General at the time, Gwede Mantashe, had said... The Secretary General of the ANC at the time, Gwede Mantashe, had said that people were not coming forward, and that's the reason that the ANC couldn't investigate a state capture. But let's move to this point next. The issue around PRASA, you say that there have been improvements in PRASA, and of course we've seen some of the lines that have been opened. Have you ever asked the ANC Secretary General, as the former Transport Minister, what happened and whether he takes responsibility for all of that infrastructure that was damaged during the height of COVID-19 when he was the Minister of Transport?
The infrastructure during the height of COVID-19 was damaged by criminals. The Minister of Transport and the Minister of Police worked very hard to make sure that we deal that place because, to be honest, it was a criminal activity at the height of a COVID-19 disaster we faced with, where criminals or people who want to sabotage the ANC government fully participated in stealing of cables, stealing of the infrastructure, damaging stations, and all of those things. And I think that we've learned a lesson in those areas that we must not lose guard and believe that criminals in the middle of a disaster, a COVID-19 that is killing people every day, they see an opportunity to destroy the infrastructure and take the country 20 years backwards. Where we should be moving forward? Because the infrastructure, the man that we've invested in fixing the infrastructure, we should be building more stations in other areas where they don't have access to stations.
Okay. Yesterday also you touched on the issue in relation to the ANC and the ANC's performance in KwaZulu-Natal, and you speak about the men from Nkandla and how the ANC's numbers in KwaZulu-Natal actually increased during the tenure of former President Jacob Zuma. And you say it is because they vote according to tribal lines. Can you just explain that? What do you mean by that?
Let me correct that. One is that what I've said yesterday is that the issue of the Nkandla, the men from Nkandla, he has always mobilized people around the issue of tribes. And it's a culture that also the IFP has tried to instill in KZN. The ANC is a unitary organization that unites the nation. It's an organization that's against racism and tribalism. Now, we're saying that when we're on a campaign trail, we're going to work very hard everywhere. It's not only in KZN, but anywhere else where you push issue of tribalism. It's something that the ANC is against. Now, we're working very hard to educate our people that we're living in one nation and no one must mobilize society according to tribal lines. And we mentioned KZN as an example because That is where the man of Nkandla is based, and that is where he's assisting the IFP to mobilize and confuse our people according to tribal lines. And from a history where issues of tribal lines have almost caused or reversed what we could have had today in 1994. We couldn't have elections. If it was not well managed by the ANC, we will not have that election in 1994 because the IFP was hell-bent on tribal battles to a point whereby there were black-on-black wars in many corners of this country. Now, the point I'm trying to raise is that we need not allow anyone in this country to mobilize according to tribal lines. That's why the ANC were going to the ground to educate everybody that we are not going to allow such a process.
Yeah, but you did say that KZN has a history of voting according to tribal lines. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Let me quickly ask you this question. What do you make of how the ANC, the mother body, has dealt with this issue of a former President Jacob Zuma? Of course, he has now been called for disciplinary hearing that will be taking place next week. But as the ANC Youth League, what's your take on how the mother body has dealt with this issue?
The issue of President Jacob Zuma, we have been given a full right to participate in disciplinary hearing as a member of the ANC. I think, look, we're too soft on the man. The man has expelled himself, but look, as a member of the National Executive Committee, I'm binded by the decisions of the NEC because I sit in that NEC. But honestly, a man is decampaigning the ANC, has moved out of policies and principles and values of the African National Congress. I don't think it deserves to get a right of any other member who's subjected to any disciplinary committee. It's a waste of time and energy. Let's focus on election to make sure the ANC wins and reclaims the hegemony that we have in society.
Do you think he'll be expelled?
Look, he has expelled himself. I don't know if I don't want to enter on the issue of disciplinary process of the ANC, but where I'm seated, the man has expelled himself because he's decampaigning the organization that he claims he's a member of. He has went openly and say he will vote for a political party he has formed that organizes against the African National Congress.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. ANC Youth League President Collen Malatji on a number of issues in relation to the state of the ANC. And once again, the first president of the ANC Youth League to see the ANC through an election since the former ANC Youth League President, Julius Malema.